Picture the retirement fantasy for a moment. Warm mornings, lower stress, a balcony that does not cost half your pension, a place where life feels wider, calmer, and perhaps more human than the routine you're leaving behind. Now picture the part most glossy retirement lists skip: the renewal appointment, the private health policy, the prescription you need every month, the exchange rate moving the wrong way, the question of whether you can fly back quickly if family needs you. That is the real HOLTO question today. If Panama, Portugal, and Uruguay are three of the strongest retirement abroad contenders, which one actually makes sense for a UK viewer thinking about travel, relocation, or later life freedom? This is not a ranking of paradise, it is a stress test. A good retirement country has to pass 5 tests at the same time. Can you legally stay? Can you afford an ordinary life? Can you access health care you trust? Can you build a weekly routine, and can you leave yourself enough flexibility if the dream changes shape? Start with Panama. On paper, Panama is easy to understand. It has a modern capital, beach towns, mountain towns, tropical weather, an established retiree reputation, and a practical connection to North and South America. It can feel like several retirement lifestyles inside one country. For some people, that range is the magic. Panama City gives you the big hospital, airport, shopping, and restaurant version of retirement abroad. Boquete gives you a cooler mountain pace, greenery, and a slower rhythm. Coastal communities offer the warm weather, sea air version of the dream. But range is not the same as certainty. A UK retiree should not hear Panama and think, problem solved. The right question is not whether Panama looks good. The right question is which Panama you mean. Capital city life, beach town life, and highland life can feel like different countries once you include rent, transport, medical access, and the people you will actually see every week. Panama's strongest emotional promise is choice. Its biggest practical risk is assuming that the choice removes the need for planning. You still check residence rules, insurance requirements, neighborhood safety, healthcare access, and how comfortable you are being much farther from Britain than a European move. Portugal is a very different proposition. For many British viewers, Portugal feels less like an escape from Europe and more like a softer version of it. Atlantic light, historic towns, good food, established services, familiar standards, and flights that make family visits feel possible rather than heroic. That is why Portugal often becomes the benchmark. It is not because it is perfect. It is because it solves many ordinary life problems at once. You can imagine the pharmacy, the bus, the supermarket, the clinic, the cafe, the walk home, and the flight back to the UK. For retirement, that ordinary detail matters more than a drone shot over a beach. The catch is that Portugal is no longer a quiet bargain hiding in plain sight. Lisbon, Porto, the Algarve, and the most desirable coastal areas have been discovered by retirees, remote workers, and investors. Housing pressure is real. The cheaper version of Portugal may be inland, smaller, slower, and less convenient than the version people imagine when they watch travel content. For UK citizens, there is another reality. Post-Brexit movement rules matter. A holiday is not the same as residence. Long stays require the correct route, correct documents, and a clear understanding of healthcare and tax position. Portugal may be the comfort choice, but comfort still has paperwork. Then comes Uruguay, the country many British viewers know least. Uruguay does not shout for attention in the same way. It is not usually the first place people name when they imagine retiring abroad. That may be exactly why it deserves a serious look. Uruguay's appeal is calm. It has a reputation for stability, social trust, a relaxed pace, and a coastal culture that can feel more grounded than flashy. Montevideo offers city life on a human scale. Punta del Este offers a polished seaside version. Smaller towns offer quiet, space, and routine. For the right person, that calm can be incredibly attractive. If you are tired of frantic cities, aggressive sales culture, and constant noise, Uruguay's promise is not cheap thrills. It is dignity, safety, rhythm, and a life that feels less performative. But Uruguay is not a simple answer for a UK retiree. It is far away. Flights are longer. Family visits require more planning. Costs can be higher than people expect for Latin America. Private healthcare, paperwork, tax residence, and property decisions all need professional checking. So the Uruguay question is not, is it underrated? It probably is. The question is whether its calm is worth the distance. For some people, yes. For others, being that far from children, grandchildren, old friends, or UK medical familiarity will make the dream feel fragile. Now compare the three as retirement tools. Panama gives you variety and warmth. Portugal gives you familiarity and European service depth. Uruguay gives you stability and breathing room. Each one solves a different emotional problem. Each one creates a different practical problem. If your biggest fear is losing access to familiar systems, Portugal is the strongest first test. If your biggest desire is warm variety with established retiree communities, Panama deserves attention. If what you crave is a quieter, steadier life in a country that feels less overexposed, Uruguay may be the most interesting. Healthcare changes the ranking. Portugal is likely to feel the most reassuring for many UK viewers because the system depth and European context are easier to understand. Panama can be strong, especially in the capital and established retiree areas, but you need to know exactly where you would go for routine and complex care. Uruguay can offer good care, but you must understand local access, private coverage, and the practical reality of distance. Cost also changes the story. Portugal may feel safe but not cheap in the places most foreigners want. Panama can offer different budgets depending on location, but imported comforts and capital city life can lift spending. Uruguay may surprise people because stability often comes with prices that are not the bargain stereotype. For a UK retiree, the smartest plan is not to choose a winner from a sofa. It is to build a reversible test. Spend time in the exact neighborhood, in the least glamorous season, doing ordinary things. Buy groceries, visit a clinic, try public transport, work out your medication plan, price realistic rent, not fantasy rent. Ask what Tuesday morning feels like when you are not on holiday. Keep your UK paperwork organized. Get proper advice on tax, pension, residency, and health cover. Do not sell everything before the destination has proved itself under pressure. A beautiful country can still be wrong for your body, your budget, or your family situation. So which is closest to retirement perfection? For many UK viewers, Portugal is the safest first benchmark. Panama is the most varied warm weather contender. Uruguay is the calm outsider that deserves more respect than it gets. The winner is not the country with the best brochure. The winner is the place where the unromantic details still feel manageable after the sunshine has become normal. That is where retirement abroad stops being a fantasy and starts becoming a plan. Here is the practical HOLTO filter I would use before booking anything long-term. First, choose the problem you are trying to solve. If the problem is weather and cost, Panama may look strongest. If the problem is reassurance, healthcare depth, and flights back to Britain, Portugal may be the wiser first experiment. If the problem is noise, pace, and a desire for a calmer society, Uruguay may speak to you in a way that a louder destination never will. Second, test the weak season, not the brochure season. Portugal can feel different when tourist pressure and housing pressure are at their peak. Panama can feel different when humidity, rain, or capital city prices enter the picture. Uruguay can feel different outside the polished summer image when daily routine and distance from the UK become more visible. Third, build a health plan before you build a dream. Write down the medications, appointments, and specialist care you actually use. Then ask where that care exists, what it costs, how insurance works, and what the emergency route looks like. A destination is not retirement ready for you until your body is included in the plan. Fourth, do the family distance test. Portugal is the easiest of the three for a quick return to the UK. Panama and Uruguay may offer wonderful lives, but distance becomes real when there is a grandchild's birthday, a parent in hospital, or an urgent document to sort out. Some people are happy with that distance. Others only discover too late that cheap sunshine is not enough. Finally, decide what you want your ordinary week to feel like. Not the airport arrival, not the first restaurant, the fifth Tuesday, the repeat walk to the supermarket, the neighbor you recognize, the clinic you trust, the place you sit when you need a quiet hour. That is where retirement abroad either becomes home or quietly becomes another trip you need to recover from. So treat Panama, Portugal, and Uruguay as 3 serious invitations, not 3 guarantees. Visit slowly, keep options open, keep professional advice close, and choose the country whose compromises you can respect, because a perfect country does not exist. A well-tested plan does. One more useful test is the return home test. If a destination stopped working, could you unwind the decision without financial panic? Could you end the lease, sell or store belongings, renew UK arrangements, and return with dignity? The best overseas retirement plans have an exit door. That does not make them pessimistic. It makes them resilient. For HOLTO viewers, the answer is not to avoid risk. The answer is to choose risk consciously. Panama asks whether you want range and warmth enough to manage distance and local variation. Portugal asks whether you value familiarity enough to pay for a more competitive market. Uruguay asks whether calm and stability are worth the long-haul commitment. That is why the first move should be a trial, not a declaration. 90 days can teach you more than 1,000 comment sections: how you sleep, what you spend, how safe you feel, whether you miss home, and whether the destination still makes sense when nothing exciting is happening. If it still works, then you may have found something rare, not paradise, but a place where your later life has more room to breathe.